Landers.
Welcome to our show. You're listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections, a place to learn about and celebrate creative arts therapy. Each week we'll explore new ways that music, art, and dance can reach, connect with, and help individuals of all stages of health and wellness. Hi, I'm Bree, Beynon, a board-certified music therapist and the managing partner for the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. Tune in as I interview professionals from healthcare and educational backgrounds on the impact of the creative arts. If you prefer to watch our live video stream, simply visit www.pbmti.com. Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon, a board-certified music therapist and neurologic music therapist here locally in Southeast Florida as the managing partner for Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. We're a private music therapy practice serving medical, educational, and community-based settings offering professional music therapy services. And that's kind of leads me into why I'm so passionate about the opportunity to host this show, to shed a light on some real creative approaches to medical, educational settings. We talk a lot about music therapy, art therapy, dance therapy, the different modalities that exist in our community, especially here in Southeast Florida, where we're lucky enough to be rich in all these different complementary therapies. We're going to do something a little bit different today, but related at the same time, something that's a tool that really all of us can take something away from, but especially if you are in a leadership or managerial or a business owner position. We're going to be talking about leadership skills today. I'm so thrilled to be able to introduce as my guest today Dr. Diane Landers, or I also call her Aunt Di because I'm lucky enough to have her as my aunt-in-law. But you'll get to know her as Dr. Landers today. She'll talk about her extensive history as a female leader and how she's even broken some barriers in that way and been the first and only vice president of the engineering firm that she's been a part of, just retired from, been a part of for about 30 years. And what that was like and what skills she's learned during that time that she wants to share now in her business owners in our field are women. And there's a specific set of skills that go with becoming a leader as a woman because unfortunately it's not as common. So what are some of those special things, so special attributes that women need to pay attention to in themselves, to cultivate in themselves, and also to be leading others? That's what we're going to talk about today. Something that's really a big passion of mine as a business owner, as a manager, but also just throughout my life. I talk a lot about family history on this show because it's something that means so much to me and has shaped so much of who I am. That it's another way I love to give back to the community is I've had the amazing opportunity to be raised by strong business women, which I think is a really unique opportunity. My grandmother, as I've shared before, 70 years in the same family business, and she's 94, sorry, Graham, going to be 94 this year, but so proud of it, and that she's going to work every day. She's selling 3 generations. The furniture and appliances at our family business, that's incredible. I'm so proud to be able to share that fact. My mom, an entrepreneur in many different ways. We've talked about her healthcare company and different things that she's done. I feel like I had a real unique upbringing in this way, and now have the opportunity to have a voice to be able to share what women are capable of when we're put in these leadership roles. So I'm really excited about what we're going to be talking about today. Dr. Landers is going to be able to give us a lot of advice from her life experience, and also she works as a women's leadership consultant now. So if you have questions for her, if you're a business owner or a manager or someone who's looking to cultivate those management skills and maybe to go out there and apply for that first manager role promotion, call in. Our number is 888-565-1470. Or as always, we are active on social media at Twitter. PBMTI is our handle, or at Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute on Facebook. Reach out to us with any questions you may have. But if you do want to talk to Dr. Landers here on the show, she's going to be joining us about 6:15, about a quarter after 6. So call in, ask any questions that you might have. We might be touching on some things that you're thinking about as it goes along. Before we get to that, I just want to bring up a website, a blog that I've found to be really interesting, especially as the last couple of years, this role has been new for me, and it has been has been completely trial and error, as most new positions are, to figure out what works, what doesn't work. So certainly looking for any resources online are good. Also, identifying people in the field that you respect, that you look up to, that have been successful, reach out to them. Odds are they want to help you. You know, you have successes, you have challenges, you know what works, you know what doesn't work. So odds are they want to be able to help you succeed as well. So don't be afraid to reach out. One of our early shows, we talked about the importance of mentorship and finding a mentor in your field who can really help support you reach your goals, and also to elevate the field itself, which in creative arts therapies is so important as we're continuing to grow, expand, gain recognition, gain respect from other professionals in healthcare and education systems. So don't be afraid to seek out a mentor. If you admire the way someone does something, like I said, odds are they want to hear from you and they want to help support your dream as well. So one of the resources that has been helpful to me is a website called Be Leaderly, and I also follow them on social media. And this was an article they put out, the difference between being a leader and being a manager. So I just wanted to read a little bit of this. 5 really great points that sound simple, but there's so much to them. So one says, listen more and speak less. And so the writer points out that being a good listener and hearing the thoughts and inspirations of others can help you, even when you're the one in charge. And she added, people feel good when they feel heard. So true. I think sometimes, especially if you're new in the role of a manager, you think, I've got all this to give, and people are looking to me for advice. And really, there's so much that can be gained from stop talking and listening to others and listening to what others have to offer. Consensus is good, but direction and decisiveness creates action. Leading by consensus will rally a team around a common goal, but according to the writer, that alone is not enough to be a leader and to create change. Consensus is good, but direction and decisiveness can create action, she emphasized. You must guide consensus. Anyone can identify a problem. A leader is part of the solution. Leaders don't sit around and complain about what's wrong, she says. They drive solutions. They figure out how to make it right. Apologize publicly and gloat privately. True leaders don't just praise publicly and criticize privately. They're also humble enough to apologize publicly and gloat privately. You don't see leaders bragging about their success, she says. They talk about their team and their team's contributions. And if they feel really good about themselves, they do it at home or with a close friend, but not publicly. A leader will apologize and take accountability for their actions. I don't see in our fields, I think we are so unique in so many ways, speaking specifically for the music therapy field, that we do want to promote success because, again, competition is really a low factor when you're in a field that's so small, and a win for one of us is a win for the whole field. So the stronger that we can be as a group to kind of promote each other, to build each other up, is so powerful. So we do want to call out, shout out successes that we have. And again, using that terminology of it's the team success. And it's really amazing to feel that validation from other therapists in your area, because we're all in this together. We know, and again, I think this is what's unique about our field, we know that competition is a low issue because there's more need than we could ever fill. The field is growing. More and more students are graduating, which is exciting. More and more colleges are adding programs. Interns, I think, are coming into the workforce at a higher rate than ever before, which is incredible. But still, with all of that going on, there's still more need than we could ever fill. So just being sensitive of how we're approaching that praise and how we're making sure to praise our team and the teams of others to just move the field up together. That's on us to do, and we can do that by just supporting one another. Give the hard message. It's very easy to praise somebody. It's easy to give somebody a raise or a good review. It can be much harder, however, to have the tough conversation. While admitting that this might sound like a harsh thing to say, the writer points out that not everyone does an outstanding job all of the time. You've got to tell them, and you've got to move on, she acknowledged. Again, since this is a creative arts therapy show, this is advice that translates to different fields. But I do feel like in our field, this is really tough. We're therapists. That's how we got into this. No one taught us how to be leaderly. We didn't get most of us, I don't know too many music therapists that have their masters in business administration. We don't learn these skills. We want to be empathic. We want to listen to others. We want to say, okay, you tried your best, right? That's what we would do for our clients. But sometimes there's another set of skills that we really need to draw on to be strong leaders and to help our team get out of a challenging situation that they're in. So I know personally that is something that I'm really looking forward to discussing with Dr. Landers today. And she's going to give some advice specifically for small private practice owners, which a majority of us are, women, and also from a musician's background. She has a background in music herself that she's going to share with us a little bit. And actually before the show shared with me that really being involved in music and performing help set the stage, no pun intended, for her to come into this role as a leader and to help guide others. So I think that's a really exciting point that she's going to share with us. I try to start the show recently with a good sing-along along our theme. I can't think of a song specific to women leadership. And that is not only confusing for me because I have a song for just about everything, but why are there not more songs for that? So here's your call to action today. In the next hour, if you can think of a good song that promotes women in leadership, call in 888-565-1470, tweet us, Facebook us. I got my phone here. I'll get the message. If I don't know it, we're just going to shout it out over the air to give us a little musical inspiration today. But if I know it, maybe we'll have time to have a sing-along at the end of the show. So if you can think of a song specific to women in leadership, let us know, because I am stumped, and I don't want to be stumped. This is an important topic. There should be a million songs about it. Thank you so much for joining in today. We're going to be talking to Diane Landers, Dr. Landers, after the break about women in leadership after a few words from our sponsors. Thank you.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Hello, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon. I am so excited to introduce our next guest. Dr. Diane Landers is here with us tonight. She is a women's leadership consultant, and she's going to talk to us all about some advice, some things that she's learned in her personal experience about being a woman and a leadership role and a managerial role. But what I love to hear about to start is your very exciting and eclectic background. So if we'll start there, but again, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, Bree, thank you. Thank you for having me on too. This is so exciting. Gosh, as far as background, I started out I am a professional archaeologist. So that's what my PhD is in. And it was a field talking about women. It was a field that not too many women went in at the time. And so working my way through that, learning all about archaeology, going on some major excavations in my life. I've been to Peru. I've dug Indian burial mounds. I've dug Indian grave sites, historic grave sites, you name it. I've done a lot of archaeology over the years. Well, I started out as a professor at Indiana University teaching archaeology. And then decided to move back to Pittsburgh. And at that time, there was a job advertisement for an archaeologist in Pittsburgh working for an engineering firm. So I answered the ad and got hired immediately. They asked me, they said, well, when can you start? And I said, well, I guess I could start tomorrow. Well, that was 30 years ago. And so working with the engineering firm, there are laws in our country that require preservation of archaeological sites and older buildings, and there's money that's allocated to the preservation of these resources. And when you're working with an engineering firm, engineers build bridges and roads and buildings, and as they begin to disturb the earth, then the archaeologists are brought in advance, just like an environmental impact statement.
Sure.
To make sure that no resources are harmed. So that was my job. Wow. And so for many, many years in the engineering firm, I started the archaeology program. I hired several archaeologists. It got to be about 50 archaeologists working full-time. And so as I built that business, and there was no role models for me to follow at all, especially as a woman in this business, as I built the business then, the engineering firm, the leaders of the engineering firm recognized there was something there and asked me then if I would move into the executive area. So I was promoted to a vice president at the time, and as you mentioned, the first female vice president in this firm. The firm is over 50 years old, and so felt very, very excited about that.
Absolutely.
But then they moved me into the executive area, into marketing, so that I could help bring in more business for the firm. So as I worked in that area, that's when I got a lot of my real leadership experience, Bree. That's when I learned how to work with teams, learned how to motivate, learned how to get your own agenda across, which is very important in anyone's field, particularly if you have your own practice as a music therapist or a health professional. So that's where I got a lot of my leadership experience. And eventually I was asked to be on the board of directors of the firm, again, the first and only female board of directors. And I can tell you that in America today, there are only, of all the Fortune 500 companies, only 14% of all of our companies around the country have any woman on the board.
Wow.
So there's a lot of room for us to fill. And again, back in my experience, I served on our board for over 10 years, and until I just recently retired. So moving through different practices and again, equating with music therapists, my whole training was as an archaeologist, not as a businesswoman, not as a leader, and certainly not as someone to sit on the board. So as you go through life, you learn a lot of different leadership traits that stick with you and help you go to the next level. So kind of a patchwork background, but I retired from the firm as a vice president just this December.
Congratulations.
And so started then moving in my own direction now, trying to give back and help women so that they don't have to go through all the trial and tribulations that I had to go through myself with no mentor, no leadership help at all. I want to give back a little bit. So that's what I'm all about, and that's why I'm so glad to be here today to talk to everybody about women in leadership. It's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so glad you're here. Obviously, you've identified that there is a real need for it as well. On the show before, Kevin Spacey, if you're lucky enough to see the success, it's your job to send the elevator back down, right? Exactly. It's exactly what you're saying, which I love. For those who may not be as familiar with the term, we all understand what leadership might be, but when you're talking about it as it's like a real science, you know, understanding it, how would you define that, leadership?
Bree, leadership is rather difficult to define because, as you said, there are so many nuances to it and so many different traits. But basically, I divide it into sort of three areas. First of all, I think leadership is that ability to motivate people towards a common goal. And simply said, that's probably the best definition I can think of, is the ability to motivate people towards a common goal. And all those words are really, really important because the second phase of that is, as a leader, you need to have what's called social influence over others. And so to have that ability to motivate others to do the things that you know they need to do, and then to have them being inspired to put in the time and the effort to do it. Now, that is true leadership, and that's a very difficult stage to reach. And it certainly is a combination of different skills you learn to do that, to be that social influencer. And lastly, I think one of the most important traits, again, of a leader is to be able to have a vision, to create a vision, and to create a vision of where you want to go and where you want your team to go. You talked about teams earlier, and that's what it's all about, is leading a team in a direction that you can see so clearly and as a leader, and so concretely that you and your team have no doubt that this is the right way to go. And so that ability to be able to create a vision and then motivate others to also see the vision as passionately as you do, that's leadership, and that takes a lot of skills.
Yeah, absolutely. You spoke to some of those, the qualities. Would you say that they are innate? Is this something that we're born with to be a leader, or is this something we can kind of learn over time?
I started out many years ago thinking that leadership was something that you were born with. And I thought, oh, there's just, you're either a leader or you're not. Over time, I've realized that that's absolutely not true. Anyone can learn leadership skills. And, too many people think that leadership are those combination of natural traits that are only for the lucky few. Again, that's not true at all. As a leader, you can learn to look at yourself, to analyze yourself. Knowing yourself as a leader is very, very important. You can learn those skills. You can learn the skills of communicating powerfully. And in fact, that's one of the interesting little courses that I've just developed for women that I call Powerful Speaking. And it's just for women, learning how to speak powerfully so you don't sound like you're a weakling. So that's a skill that can be learned. Learning the skill of mindfulness, which is being empathetic towards your team, understanding yourself, even skills such as negotiation. And I'm sure many, many people in your situation as well, whether you're in business or private practice or for nonprofit, there's always that negotiation, the back and forth that everyone does to move projects forward. Well, that ability to learn how to negotiate, that's a skill and a trait that can be learned. And as you were mentioning, we don't learn that in college, unless you're a business major. So many of us who are in our particular disciplines, whether it's music or whether it's healthcare or whether it's an archaeologist, we never learned that. We learned to develop our skills. So the ability to learn all these different traits, motivating, negotiating, communicating, mindfulness, these are all leadership skills that can be learned.
Wonderful. And I love that you also bring up that you've developed a program specific two women speaking, because it is different. And if you could just expand a little bit on that. I mean, some of it is stereotypical, but sometimes ladies are taught to being polite is equal with being quiet and being a little bit more meek. How do we kind of reframe that? You know, things that we might have been taught in school or in our youth to translate that into being a powerful voice.
That's just such a good question, Bree. And it's a long-lasting question, and one that's always asked over and over again about women, by women, for women. Particularly in my generation, we were raised to be polite. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. Make sure that you are supporting everyone else at your expense. But as more and more women are entering the workforce, and now there are many, many women, such as yourself, who are in mid-manager positions, yet there's no roadmap for you, and there's no real support for, am I doing the right things? For the most part, you probably are doing the right things. But again, for women, there are some specific issues, and I think they're this. First of all, I think women have not learned to have confidence in themselves, to be able to just stand there and say, I can do this and I will do this. We're always questioning ourselves. Am I doing it perfect enough? And that's another trait that many women, particularly this art of perfectionism. You will never get anywhere if you want to just be perfect. You need to understand that results matter, not perfection. So, that's a nuance. And these are all areas that can be talked about and discussed in, women's conferences. So that ability of confidence, I think, is very, very important. One of the things I mentioned about, speaking powerfully. I've given many talks in my career to multiple audiences. And yet it hasn't been until the very end of my career that I realized I could have used a little help in speaking powerfully. And speaking powerfully isn't speaking harshly. It's not speaking long or long-windedness. It's speaking succinctly and using the right words at the right time. So other issues I think that are specific to women also are the life balance issues. It's interesting. Sheryl Sandberg wrote a great book recently. She's the CEO of Facebook. Okay. And it's called Lean In. And it was a book that I read only a few months ago. And her premise in this book is, as women go through their careers and get to be middle managers, now they're faced with life decisions. Do I have a family or not? Well, she started talking about, having a family is not a sickness. It's not an illness. And so what happens to many women is they drop out of their career paths because they think they need to have the child, to raise the child. Well, what she's finding now, more and more women, instead of leaning out, you lean in. And that's the premise of her book. And I thought that was so, so important, particularly in today's workforce, when there are more and more women entering the workforce. And face it, women have the children, okay? So the ability to be able to know that you can go forth with your career, very courageously, and still have that balance of family. You can do it. You may have to tweak a little things here and there. You may have to make sure your husband is doing a little bit more than they're used to doing. But in today's workforce, when men and women are really doing the same thing today, and the reason why we're doing the same thing is because of technology, computers, working virtually from home. There's no more that situation where men are going out and hunting and women are sitting back. Men and women now are equal in how they work. So now, again, Sheryl Sandberg was saying now they need to be equal in raising the family and in taking those issues. I think that's very, very critical today and very important for many women to read and lean into your career, especially if it's a career that you love, like I did and you do, and you're passionate about. Right. You shouldn't have to lean out at all, but find ways to lean in and continue so that you can have that great life balance that everybody deserves.
It sounds like a great recommendation. I'm definitely going to check that out for sure.
Yeah.
We're going to keep this conversation going. One thing before we cut to a break, I just wanted to say, it is so important that you mention that about families, because so many young business owners in our field, again, just speaking specifically for music therapy, we are exactly at that age. I have so many friends that are going through. So just that validation that you gave, and that you're not alone in going through this, and that there's a strong community to support through both just the gathering around someone and supporting them as a leader, but also those that are starting a family as well. So I love that you brought up that point. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking to Dr. Landers about women in leadership. Thank you.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Hello, thank you so much for listening and watching tonight. You are tuned in to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I am your host, Bree, Beynon. I have my guest with me tonight, Dr. Diane Landers. Thank you again so much for being here. We're talking about something really near and dear to my heart, valuable skills to be aware of, to learn about if you are a woman in a leadership position. In the beginning of our show today, I read a short blog that was just kind of 5 basic tips of the differences between being a manager and a leader. And you were sharing that this is a lot that something that you talk to women about as well. What are your thoughts on that?
There's a big difference between being a manager or a boss and a leader. And, there's an old saying that goes, managers do things right. Leaders do the right things. And I've always kept that as a mantra for myself, to understand the difference. And there's more and more of this kind of nuanced differences coming up everywhere. Everyone's talking about this because it is important. Many people can be promoted, to be a supervisor, and they can do a great job. And there are many bosses around, but there are few leaders. And so the differences are on my LinkedIn site, I posted a cute little chart, and it had the difference between bosses and leaders. And one of the things it said was that bosses say go, and leaders say let's go. And just what you were talking about earlier, Bree, about the importance of the team. That leaders understand the importance of the team and every individual in it. And so there was another thing on Facebook, or no, I think it was on LinkedIn. I'm going to read this. I wrote this down. Leaders are kind, not weak. Leaders are strong, not harsh. Leaders are confident, not cocky. And leaders are servants, not dictators. And, there's another phrase. It was an anonymous quote that I always kept at my desk, and the essence of leadership. And it said, if serving is beneath you, leadership is beyond you. And so many people who get to be in supervisory positions feel that simply because they've had that wand given to them, and now they're this boss, they can be tyrants, and they can be petulant, and they can be dictators, and they can make people feel bad, and they think that they can motivate people by the carrot and stick. I'll give you a raise and now you'll be fine. Leaders have found out that all of that is absolutely untrue. The way to motivate people is yourself being a leader. You have to be respected. There was a study done by two psychologists, French and Raven, years ago, and they were talking about the only real way to gain respect is you either earn it yourself or people see something in you that they really desire to follow. And that is leadership. So you can have that accolade and you can have that title of being a boss, but you'll have staff that will hate you if you don't have some empathy and some understanding and that ability to be able to create a vision and create a pathway for your staff to follow. So that's why there's so many bad bosses out there. They have the position and they think they're powerful simply because they've been anointed with a name. Leaders never take that seriously at all. And so there was another saying that I heard is, when you talk to a manager, you feel that they are important. When you talk to a leader, they make you feel that you are important. So, can you see now the little difference between that, what a leader is and what a manager or a boss is? And not saying bosses are bad, but there are many bosses that are great leaders. But if you don't understand the difference between leadership qualities and simply having a position in a supervisory role, then you're not going to be a very good boss.
Absolutely. And it's all about kind of reframing that and for the person in the leadership position to kind of look at it and in that way. As a couple things came up as you were reading some of the quotes and also to follow up on what you were sharing before the break. I think something that's unique to our field, too, is that, music therapists are brought to this position because we are nurturers. We're musicians first, but the reason we went to this field and not performance or education is because we have that innate draw to help others succeed, to see the best in them, to enhance their quality of life. So when we're in a leadership position, sometimes that gets a little muddy in our message and inability to make it so direct because we're afraid of offending someone. So I like how you kind of said that when you were reading those quotes of just that different way of looking at it. You're not being harsh. It's being supportive. So that was a really great point to bring up.
Yeah, Bree, and there's another term called emotional intelligence, and that is a term that really sort of is the essence of leadership. And what emotional intelligence is again, you were talking about music therapists, people in music being nurturers. What emotional intelligence is it's that ability to see in yourself what your emotional triggers are, good and bad. And so the ability to check yourself, the ability to be able to know when you are going off the deep end or just really having a great time, nurturing, making a patient feel better. That ability to be in check with your emotions is a leadership quality and a leadership trait that you can learn. So that and that ability to self-manage, self-motivate, and that ability to really know what the empathetic side of you is again a leadership trait. So leadership doesn't have to be strong. Leadership can be very nurturing as well. And in fact, the quote that I said before, if serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. So again, there's a very natural sort of catharsis between being in the creative fields and being a leader.
Beautiful, and that leads so well into our next point. What do you see are some common links between the field of music therapy? I know that we've talked a lot about music therapy and you've shared your insight with me. How do you see that kind of fitting into the package?
It's funny, as I was thinking about our show today, I was reflecting on one of your past shows that you did in January. And so there were three areas where I think that leadership and music therapy really combine nicely. And one is, and I'll talk about these in a moment, like one is motivating, pushing, and the creative side. And so sort of going back to that, the motivating, I talked a lot about leaders being motivators. Well, in your past show, I remember you said, I wrote it down as I was listening to it, you said music is motivating. And I thought that is so true, because that's exactly what leadership is too. It's the same thing. As a leader, you need to know how to motivate your staff to do the things you know they need to do. They may not necessarily know it themselves, but you know they need to move in this direction. And so music and music therapy is so similar to that, because if you think about for example, I just started thinking about songs. If you think, oh, here's a good one. How about this? How motivating was Lady Gaga when she was singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl? So here's Lady Gaga, sort of counterculture persona, little monsters and all that kind of stuff. Now here she is singing the national anthem. She still had her, red eyeliner on, her eyeshadow on. But still, to me, that was so motivating. And it was motivating because of the passion that she put into that song. So she was standing up there as a leader, and she was doing it through music. So, there's so many different ways that you can combine the beauty of how motivating music is in your practice as music therapists to leadership skills. It just is seamless. And it was so interesting to me to sort of make that connection. So music is motivating. Leadership is motivating as well. And then the second thing you said in that show, which, again, really sort of resonated with me, was you said, and I'm going to write, music therapy pushes one further. And so the idea of pushing is very similar to motivating. You, as a leader, you have a staff. You have a staff of many, many different people. You need to push them sometimes in the direction that you have said. If you're the visionary leader and you've set yourself a goal, your team needs to go in that direction. So pushing them, not harshly, but pushing and pulling, they don't even know that you're doing that, but that ability to push someone further. Whether you are working with, someone who, through music therapy needs to move more, or someone who needs to regain their speech. So you told the story of Gabby Gifford, and I thought that was just a fabulous story, how she was able to regain her speech through song, of all things. I've told so many people that story. I think it's fabulous. But you as a leader need to also push your team, and music therapists do the same thing. So, that was the other thing that I thought was like so much in common. And then thirdly, the idea of the creative side. Obviously, being a musician or an artist, you're creative. You're maybe creative by nature, but you also learn through your career to learn how to be creative as well. Leaders also need to be creative, because if you're in a situation every day where you're working with the same people every day, as you know and I know, things get stale, things get boring, your job gets boring. So as a leader, how do you stimulate? How do you motivate? Well, I've often used music myself as a creative spark for my team when I was head of my marketing team, to get everyone sort of moving again. And so I truly believe that music therapists, and leadership traits are again, so similar. The two areas are just so simpatico that it just, I think you will find that there will be many creative people who really take to leadership skills once they learn what they are and learn that they can, be leaders as well. So
I think that's such a great point, too. Sometimes we're faced with the challenge of, again, to return to the point of we didn't learn these skills, they weren't taught to us, this isn't who I am, or this is maybe not who I feel like I was born with these skills. Right. It's so natural by just the skills that we already have, being a music therapist, being a musician, the traits that are already within us. How can we use those abilities to like you said, to motivate others? Rather, we're used to using music to motivate our clients. We can use those same skills in a administrative role.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that I know you wanted to talk about today is music therapists in practice. You now find yourself as business people. And again, I recall when I was a young archaeologist, and I was trained as an archaeologist. I wasn't trained as a business person, so I didn't know any of those skills at all. I just started doing what I thought it was the thing that I should do. But we don't learn these skills mostly in college unless you are a business major. So I really think that if creative folks, music, artists, find yourself now at that intersection with business, it becomes a whole new area that you need to or want to improve upon. And that whole new area are business skills and leadership skills. And again, those are things that we talked about that can be learned and aren't innate. But if you really put your mind to it, you can really begin to understand your team, what they need, and then you can be the nurturer of your team with a few skills under your belt. It's interesting, just the other day, a friend of mine has a veterinary practice of all things, and she and I were talking about the practice, and she was saying, sometimes the team doesn't work well together, and I said, wow, it sounds like you need some leadership skills there. And she said, well, I don't know what you mean by that. And the first thing that I said to her was that you probably need to set a vision for your veterinary practice. And what that would mean is the doctor himself, the vet himself, spending a half a day working with the team so that they understand his vision. He understands it very well, and she understands her vision very well, but others may not. So that ability to be able to come back into your team and say, hey, team, this is where I think we need to go. That is setting the vision. And that's one of the first tools that leaders can learn, and they need to learn, because that is the way that you drive everyone rowing in the same boat, in the same direction.
Absolutely. You're giving so much valuable advice. I really appreciate you being here. We're going to take a really quick break. We come back and learn a little bit more about your musical background. Oh, okay. Looking forward to that. We'll just see you after this quick commercial break.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon. Fortunate enough to have with me today, talking to Dr. Diane Landers, a women's leadership consultant. She's been giving a lot of great advice. I know I feel like I am in a leadership seminar, just soaking it all in. I can't wait to explore some of the concepts that we've talked about tonight. I hope it's been helpful to all you at home, too. I have to give a shout out. We did get a request for a women's leadership song. I don't think I can do it justice, so I'm just going to let you look it up on YouTube. But Beyonce's Who Runs the World? Girls. It's perfect. It's perfect. Good job, Karen. I like that one. Again, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it justice, though, so enjoy that one after the show. Speaking of music, I know that that's one of the first things you and I connected on was a musical level before I even knew about archaeology and everything else. So can you talk a little bit about how music helped shape your life?
Well, music has been a big part of my life. Of course, when I was young, I had the piano lessons and started singing in the choir, the church choir. But it was interesting. I was always very shy, very, very shy person. And it wasn't until I got into the 9th grade and I was selected for the role of Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady. And I was selected because I didn't even try out. I was too scared to try out. I was helping another person interview for their part, the Henry Higgins part, I guess. And the 9th grade teacher said to me, well, why aren't you trying out? And I said, oh, I could not sing in front of people. And she said, why not? And so I thought, well, all right. So I tried out and I got the part. I was shocked. So it was that experience, singing, which was my biggest fear, but I loved singing in front of an audience that started to give me the confidence that I needed to step out, to step out and try new things, because, that was a very, very scary experience for a 9th grader. And so through that, then, that changed me. It truly changed me. And so, I went on in my life, and I always, talk about that experience. It meant a lot to me. And so, now I sit on the board back in Pittsburgh. I live in Pittsburgh and in Fort Lauderdale. I sit on the board of the Civic Light Opera, and so help promote music in Pittsburgh and that way. And so many people have always asked me about that experience about being the lead in a musical really set me on a different career.
That's wonderful. And you've also followed up with music in your adult life, too, sang in a choir as well?
Yes, I sang when I lived in Fort Wayne. When I was a professor, I sang in the choir there, and then came back to Pittsburgh, sang in another choir there. And so now that I'm retired, I'll probably find another choir to sing in, too. So
That's great. And, I mean, there's a lot of correlation there, too, when you think about the director of a choir, right, and what kind of leadership skills they have to have.
Oh. Absolutely. Yeah. Whether you're a director or you're in an ensemble, in music, you're always in a team. So, the idea of team, empathizing, getting the team to all work together is intrinsic to music, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The two fit together very naturally.
Very naturally.
More so than I think people would realize.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to give you an opportunity. I know that you're new resident here in Broward County.
Yes, I am. I love it.
Good. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, your view.
Yes, love
right
it.
in the water. It's just perfection. What are some things, how can people get in touch with you if they have any questions? What are some things that you are offering to the community? How can people reach out to you?
Well, one way that people can reach out to me is really through LinkedIn.
Okay.
I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn. So, you can just, search for my name, Diane Landers. Okay. And actually, it's Diane Beynon Landers. So I do a lot of posting on there. And if someone wants to send me a message through there, that's fine. I would send someone a message back. So that sounds good.
Wonderful.
I also, my email address is dianeblanders@gmail.com. Okay. So someone can reach me that way. So I speak at women's groups. I do speaking that way. I can do seminars on different leadership skills. I do a seminar on negotiating. I do a seminar on motivation, delegation, different topics of leadership that people might feel that they need. So those are all things that I offer. And then, as I mentioned before, one of my fun things is I do a course called Speaking Powerfully. Just a short little course, a 1-hour course with a little 2-hour workshop, and it's geared towards women on how to speak more powerfully and get your voice heard.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you see as who should be taking that workshop?
I see the real need now are for really mid-level women managers, as they are taking on more responsibility, and they usually have teams working for them now. Mm-hmm. Most managers have been high performers themselves. Mm-hmm. They really don't need a lot of motivation themselves, but they need to learn how to motivate others. Mm-hmm. So would be the target, I would think.
That's wonderful, and it's so great. And are you offering those services here in Fort Lauderdale as well?
Not yet, but I
would.
Okay.
Okay. So this is something you've been talking about in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
But you will be here. You'll be splitting the year
Yes,
between
I
the
split
two.
my time.
That's wonderful. So 2 areas of the East Coast
Yes.
where people have the opportunity to connect with you, and even from other areas throughout the country, just to connect through LinkedIn or through email. One more time, if you want to give your email and your LinkedIn information.
LinkedIn is Diane B. Landers, and for my LinkedIn address, and my email address is dianeblanders@gmail.com.
That's wonderful. I feel so thankful not only to have personal relationship with you and get to know you on that level, but also that you would come on tonight and share, especially on a topic that is so important for our field, music therapy. I'm sure other small private practices feel this way, especially catered towards women and the unique needs that we need to hear. We need to hear that validation, right? That
Yes,
we're not alone in this, especially as, like you said, really, there isn't that distinction anymore between the jobs men and women are doing. We're doing the same job. So just hearing that our voice can be used powerfully. And just thank you so much for all that you shared tonight. If you have any more questions for her, please do reach out. She shared our email address, LinkedIn. If you want to reach out to PBMTI, we'll put you in touch. As always, thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something about leadership today. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you, Bree.
Thank you for listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We hope you enjoyed today's program and discovered new ways to bring music, art, and dance into your home or workplace. Please find a copy of today's show at pbmti.com. If you have any questions for our guest or myself, please email me at Bree, that's B-R-E-E, at pbmti.com, or call the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute at 561-747-9944. Tune back in next week for an all-new live show. See you then.